And I'm coming to Santa Fe to do my very first Count in Marriage of Figaro. Well, I won't really know what the move to doing the Count is like until I do it. I've done nothing but Figaro my entire career in the opera. I've done it many times, had a lot of joy with it. But I think I've always wanted to try my hand at the Count as well. He's such an interesting character, and Figaro is a completely different personality from the Count. The Count is Conte Almaviva, who, if you are familiar with The Barber of Seville, in that he's the plaintive sort of suitor for Rosina, who ends up being his Countess. And he is a very privileged, very rich, very entitled nobleman in Spain. This is part 2 of this story, continuing from Barber of Seville till now. Which, whereas before he was trying to win his love, now he's trying to, well, now he's dealing with how to maintain a marriage, or how not to maintain a marriage, depending on your perspective. And he's wrestling with his desires and his sense of privilege and his entitlement. So, yeah, it's interesting to see his transition from the love-struck sort of puppy dog who's more an equal with Figaro, to now fully adopting his place in society and being the nobleman and being the authoritative master of the house. The droit de seigneur was an old custom. Historians will argue as to how much it was actually ever implemented, but it did exist, whereby the master of the domain or the area could have the right to bring into his bed any young nubile woman who, on her wedding night, he basically got to deflower her before her husband. And this was considered by the nobility to be an honor for a peasant girl or someone of a lower class to be deflowered by a nobleman. Figaro says, you know, you were so kind to have abolished this, but he now has designs on Figaro's bride to be Susanna, and so is deciding maybe that wasn't such a good idea, because he's feeling perhaps bored or maybe just frisky in his marriage, and decides that he wants to, I don't know, explore other options. So his way of doing that is to just maybe go back on his word, which is a big betrayal for Figaro. I mean, that's the big thing, is that Figaro was so helpful to him in the first opera, in the first play, and now he's really betraying his friendship by saying he's going to surreptitiously sleep with Susanna. Oh, they have a fantastic history of hijinks and intrigue, and it's almost like a good buddy movie, you know, where they're very helpful to each other, and the Count, despite his noble position, really acts as an equal with Figaro in all of the designs and all the machinations that get Rosina to fall in love, and they take her away from Bartolo, and they really were, I mean, clearly they weren't total equals, but in that part of the drama, there's none of the distance that happens with the Count being of noble birth. When first they meet, Figaro is not an official vassal or servant of the Count. He's in his employ, and he's there to help him for money. But then as we move into Marriage of Figaro, he's now his live-in servant, and they have a domestic history, and so the power dynamics have changed a little bit. But I can't help but think, and when I've played Figaro, there's this sense of, are you kidding me? Like, I did all this for you. We had something. You know, what happened? And that's part of it, is this sense of betrayal. And I don't know that the Count really sees it as such. Maybe he does, but what's more important to him is his sense of honor and what others perceive him as, and what the household perceives him as. And also, he's been born with this sense of entitlement, and he's completely forgotten what it is to be a friend. There's a lot of argument as to how much you can really be a friend with someone who's your servant. But nonetheless, I think that's a big part of Figaro's anger, is just this sense of betrayal over from the Count.
I think, you know, Rosina understands that her husband wanders around on her, but I think she hates the scandal that it creates. I think she hates that everybody knows about it, and that she's usually the last person to know. And the one time that she feels a spark with anybody, other than her husband, which is Carabino, that all of a sudden, just the idea of that happening creates this huge wave of jealousy, this huge scandal that, you know, never happens to him when he's running out all around. So I think that kind of double standard is a little challenging. And in her opening aria, when she's singing Porgi Amor, and she's in utter devastation, part of that is looking at herself and seeing someone she doesn't recognize. I mean, she's lost the fire, she's lost the spark that you see as Rosina, and she has to find that again. And part of the whole Carabino coming in, part of that is, or coming into her life in the way that he has, really provides that kind of fire that her husband is not helping her.
I think it's always interesting about the Countess is that so many countesses forget that Rosina in Barbara of Seville is the same person. They're such different operas. People forget. Mm-hmm. I mean, I have to remember too that, you know, the Count in Barbara of Seville is the same guy, just a little bit later. Because Rosina is so full of fire and spice, and she is, now she has to maintain this facade, of course, and her position, but so does the Count. But informing both of our actions are these really young, vibrant, conniving, clever, and daring characters who are now forced into this life of, you know, proper dress, proper manners, and maintaining this image for all the courtiers and the people who come to visit us and everything.
I have sung the Countess several times. My very first time of singing the Countess was at the Santa Fe Opera in the Jonathan Kemp production that we're doing. So I'm so, yeah, can you believe that? I'm so excited to go back and see the set again and revisit that world. And it's a very, in an odd way, it's very traditional and very modern at the same time. He really struck that balance quite beautifully. I was an apprentice in Santa Fe, and I got to spend the most wonderful, life-changing experience there. I went out there and I absolutely hated it. I thought everything is khaki and taupe, and the trees are 2 feet tall and dusty, and then I saw my first sunset, and I was hooked, and I am still hooked. I mean, it really is the land of enchantment, and I'm so privileged to have been able to spend so much time out there. And the company itself is so familial. Everybody's so supportive and very warm. It's a really wonderful environment to do these kinds of performances. So I am so excited to go back. I can't even tell you. I think it's going to be such a fun time. We're going to have a great time.
I agree. Yeah, my first summer there was 2011 in The Last Savage, which I almost didn't get to do, but I was able to. And it was a wonderful, healing sort of place to be for the summer, and just everyone's so supportive and accepting and beautiful environment. I mean, it's like paid vacation. I mean, people want to go there because we can't believe that we're lucky enough to sing in this gorgeous of a place and where everything works so smoothly. And so I'm absolutely excited to go back.
This would make the top 3 of operas that I could listen to and still love every single day of my life. There are things that I find new every time, and there are moments that I just, like in the 4th act finale when Figaro goes the tutto è tranquillo e placido. It's one of the most stunning moments, and in Santa Fe, with the air flowing and the back open, it's going to be unbelievable. I cannot wait. But at the same time, this opera can be done so many ways and interpreted in so many different ways that every time you would see it or listen to it, if you had to listen to it or see it every single day, it could be an entirely different experience.
I've done an enormous amount of Figaro, and I have not begun to feel like I've scratched the surface of it. I don't know anyone who can really say that. There's so much in there, and just when you think that you maybe get it, you go, oh my gosh, you hear another interpretation, you see a different production, you have a maestro who brings something else out, and you go, wow, I really actually am arrogant to think that I could possibly get all that's in this, which is the amazing thing to me about Mozart. I've never ever felt like I could truly grow tired of it.
Why is it on everybody's top 10 list? I think because it has all of the natural passions that we have. It has love, it has jealousy, it has rage, it has trickery, it has laziness, it has apathy, but it also has complete desolation. It has so many facets of the human emotional spectrum that I think everybody can find something in it to relate to. And the way Mozart said it, he really, he was a master at exploring human emotion and the human experience.
The music helps us understand, and it's paced so beautifully. The entire Act Two finale builds and builds and builds and builds, adding more people, and it's just, the pacing of it is so perfect. I don't know how he did it, but that's why he was a genius.